Carlos Alcaraz returns. He's back on tour after being injured for the Australian Open 2023 tournament. He makes his return at Buenos Aires, the Argentina Open, an ATP 250 event, and that will be starting tomorrow. So that's Monday, 13th of February. Make sure you tune in. Before we get into it, though, remember to that like button and do subscribe if you are new. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, leave a rating or review. Thank you so much. You can see I got a little bit trigger happy and give my predictions on my preview video. So you can see Carlos Alcaraz picked him as he's got a bye. He's a top seed. Fabio Fognini also is coming up against Laszlo Djere, which is a pretty good matchup. I reckon a 50-50, honestly. I think Fognini probably has the more experience on the clay, so I have to go with him. Galán has a qualifier, so I'll go with Galán. And then we've got two Argentinians, with one with a qualifier to face in Baez, who was, if I'm not mistaken, 2 sets to love up against Zverev at Roland Garros last year. Zverev making the semi-finals in the end and losing to Rafa, or having to retire anyway to Rafa after that horrific injury, which he's still recovering from. He should come through that qualifier. Schwartzman has a bye, and they'll both be playing at home, so there'll be really high expectations for both of them, I'm sure. Pedro Martinez has Benebe Zapata Morales. I'm going to go Zapata Morales. Manar has Peya, the wild card. I'm going to Manar. Cerundolo has a qualifier. Cerundolo should come through that, and of course playing at home as well. Molcan has Dominic Thiem. Dominic Thiem is not getting very good first rounds, I have to say. This is not an easy one at all. Alex Molcan is a very solid player, and I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit of a struggle for Dominic Thiem, but given it's his favorite surface, arguably the clay, and given that I guess he should be able to feel more at home on this surface and against these types of players, I think I'm going to go with Dominic Thiem. I think Dominic Thiem should come out on top. Sousa has a qualifier, so we'll go for Sousa. And Montero versus Kachin is a good one. Brazil versus Argentina. A very good football, a very, very good football matchup, of course. I'm going to go for the Argentinian Pedro Kachin. Musetti has a bye, who's going to be very dangerous, of course. And we have Ramos Vinolas versus Carabellas Bayana. Going to go Ramos Vinolas. Echeverry has Hugo Dellien. Going to go Hugo Dellien. Correa has Acosta. Going to go Correa. And then we have Cam Norrie, who's the second seed, who has a bye. This is now where it gets really interesting. Carlos Alcaraz would face Fabio Fognini if my predictions are correct. And that's a really, really tough one for Alcaraz and also for Fognini, because this is a matchup that you could see Fognini giving Alcaraz some trouble. But Alcaraz should be too fresh, I think, for Fognini at this stage. Galán has Baez. I think Baez will come through that. I think Schwartzman will come through Zapata Morales. I think Cerundolo will also beat Manar. And Dominic Thiem should beat Sousa. I've got Musetti to beat Kachin, and Ramos Vinolas to beat Hugo Dellien, and Norrie to beat Correa. That leaves us with some really tasty quarterfinals in Carlos Alcaraz versus Sebastian Baez. I think Carlos Alcaraz should be too good. The big question mark is going to be about how he looks physically, and also how does he look in terms of his touch, his feel. How is he looking in terms of his ball striking? I think he'll look good enough to come through Sebastian Baez. Schwartzman Cerundolo is a fantastic quarterfinal. I'm actually going to go with the slightly younger player in Cerundolo. And Schwartzman is he was and is still a very, very good player, but coming towards the back end of his career, and I think, if I'm being honest, Cerundolo is on the up and up. So I think he could take over, and it could almost be a sort of passing of the torch. Dominic Thiem versus Lorenzo Musetti. That's an amazing quarterfinal matchup, and two of the best one-handers on tour as well. When we're talking about backhands, that would be a real treat to watch. Very similar styles, I would say, in a way. I think it's tough. I think Musetti, though, is playing some good tennis, especially on the clay. I think he's going to be too strong, so I'm going to go Musetti. Ramos Vinolas versus Cam Norrie. Really tough one for Ramos Vinolas. And also, I think Cam Norrie really does like the clay, so I'm going to go Cam Norrie. Leaves us with Carlos Alcaraz versus Francisco Cerundolo in the semi-finals. I'm going to go Alcaraz. I'm going to go Musetti and Norrie in the other semi-final. That's a really tough one for Musetti, and Cam Norrie is going to attack that backhand with his forehand all day, being a lefty, but I don't think it's going to trouble Musetti too much, given how comfortable he looks on the one-hander for the most part. The only thing for Musetti is, even though he does look very comfortable on that one-hander, the forehand is what he's going to look to really dominate with. And given he's playing against a lefty, it's going to be harder than normal. I think it really comes down to the serve return dynamics, and neither player has a particularly dominant serve, but both return pretty well. They're pretty solid in terms of their returning ability. We're going to Musetti to edge it just and to set up a next gen, barnstormer really. And Musetti, the last time they played on clay was in an ATP final, and Musetti beat him. Now the question is, can he repeat that, or will Carlos Alcaraz get revenge? I think given that Alcaraz has come for layoff, I'm actually going to go with Lorenzo Musetti to win. Now, most of the crowd will be with Alcaraz, given that they're Hispanic or Latino, even in Argentina, so they're Spanish speaking, in Argentina they will be Spanish speaking, if I'm not mistaken, and also some Portuguese speaking maybe. So yeah, I reckon Alcaraz will have a lot of support, but I think Musetti will come out on top. That's my prediction anyway. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stay safe and well. See you in the next video.